Welcome to the Art of Money podcast with Art McPherson.
And thanks for checking out the Art of Money podcast. My name is Mark Owens alongside Art McPherson and Luke McCarty. All the information for the McPherson Financial Group, you can find it at theartofmoneyradio.com. We've been talking a lot about adjusting portfolios in response to inflation. And I want you to hear this clip from Christine Benz from Morningstar. She says another thing you can do is to see if your income sources, if those are protected as well.
So if you're earning a salary, you want to check into whether you have been able to negotiate a higher salary. Has your employer been helping you stay whole, even as we've seen higher prices come online? If you're someone who's retired, you have most likely received a nice inflation adjustment from Social Security to the extent that you're receiving Social Security.
A couple of good things to do as we get affected by inflation. What else do you suggest, Art McPherson?
Well, you want to make sure that your assets are positioned in a way that when we have inflationary times, which we have right now, you have the best potential for long-term success, because inflation erodes the power of our money. So if you have $100 today, 2 years ago, it dropped from $100 to about $93. This year, it's on track to drop it again about another 7%. So in just a 2-year period, we've lost $14 worth of spending power. That's why everything's more expensive. So it does not go like it did just 2 years ago. So it's about $84 is what 100 was worth a couple years ago, is what all it gives us now. So you've got to have your investments in positions where when we go through these periods of time, over the long term, we can keep pace with that. So if you started pulling income of $5,000 a month 2 years ago, you need to be able to give yourself a pay raise, or else you're getting squeezed with the inflation factor. One of the things we do here at our office at McPherson Financial Group is we have a system that takes the last 25 and 30 years and takes the actual inflation numbers and puts those data points into our software system. So as we're projecting forward, it actually takes our current growth rates, our current inflation rates, and make sure that our clients can have a successful retirement no matter what we're going through, whether it's a good economy, a flat economy, a bad economy, high inflation, moderate inflation, whatever's going on, low interest rates, high interest rates, that our clients can have success.
Speaking on inflation, right? One of our economic indicators, real personal income. I talked about this on our last YouTube video. If you go to YouTube and just look up McPherson Financial Group, you'll see a 2022 report in there about our market perspective. And one of our economic indicators, real personal income, is negative right now because inflation is 7.9%, and the average wage growth is not 7.9%. So that means it feels like we have less money because things are more expensive. And, with the recent rise in gas prices, a lot of that wasn't factored into the last inflationary number. So if you were to factor those in, we're over 8%. So, real personal income is a deterrent. It's kind of a recessionary indicator, not a standalone, which is why we have multiple indicators and multiple reasons and things that we look at to reduce risk in the portfolio. Mm-hmm. But currently that is negative because wages are not keeping up.
321-425-8550. And for many years, if a parent passed away and they passed on an IRA or a 401k to a loved one upon their death, well, they could take that money in small amounts each year with the minor tax hit in the form of an RMD. So, Art, Luke, explain how the Secure Act changed the ways that we pass that 401k or an IRA to a beneficiary.
Sure. Well, it used to be before the Secure Act, you could take your life expectancy over your full lifetime and have that taxable dollars factored that way. So you could take, like Luke, if he's getting something right now from a parent or a grandparent, he could be able to use his current age and factor in his life expectancy. So he might be able to stretch the tax over a 50-year period. So every year he'd only have to pay 1/50th of the tax, or only have 1/50th of that account distributed to him. Well, now the Secure Act changed all those rules. He can no longer do that. If he gets the same check from his grandfather, he will have to take it out within a 10-year period. So it can make a big difference on how much tax you have to pay. And typically right now we have $87 trillion that are being transferred over in the baby boomer generation. And it basically, instead of having that money be taxed over a 50-year period, we're now having all that money be taxed over a 10-year period. So it makes a big difference. It's really good for the government, not so good for us personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so IRAs are 10 years, but a 401k, so if you pass away, or a parent or grandparent, whomever passes away and the money's still in the 401k, it's 5 years. So instead of what would have been your whole life, is now a 5-year rule where you have to take all that money out in 5 years and pay taxes on it. If it's in an IRA, it's 10 years, right? If it's in a Roth IRA, it's still 10 years, but it's tax-free. So there's a lot of taxation involved in this. And when we create legacy plans for our clients, this is factored in, right? If you pay the tax now at historically low tax rates from the Trump tax cuts, is that better than your kids or grandkids paying it 30 years from now when I'm making up a number, right? The rate we're on when we're $50 trillion in debt, right? We're 30 trillion now. So taxes are going up, and that's a way to have legacy dollars pass tax free. And we have ways to do it over multiple generations where you could have grandkids and unborn great grandkids receiving a tax-free benefit. So some of our clients are in those plans and those strategies. And it's very important. If you're not going to spend all of your money, you should be tax efficient in how you give it away.
I heard Garth Brooks make a comment once, and he said, I've made enough money that my grandkids' kids are set for life. When you mentioned, Luke, that legacy plan, taking care of the next generation. I mean, can you do that? Can you say, hey, I want to leave this much for the grandkids that I haven't even met yet, that aren't even born?
You can do it that way. You can, set up an education trust that funds as many grandkids down the line as possible, right? And you can pay for your great grandkids' college education if you put enough money in there. There's certain ways, through annuities where you can structure it and almost have trust-like provisions through an annuity, and have it where it pays every grandkid or great grandkid, make up a number, $5,000 each on their birthday every year for the rest of their life. I mean, there's a lot of cool things you can do if that's a part of your plan.
It's all about putting that income plan, that retirement plan together with the team from the McPherson Financial Group. 321-425-8550. Always online at artofmoneyradio.com. We mentioned a little bit earlier in the show about Tom Brady out of retirement, back into the NFL. But I want you to hear this clip from Pat Perez. He's a 4-time PGA Tour winner, and he has no plans on retiring. And he's actually really looking forward to being on the Seniors Tour because he says it is the best retirement package in all of sports.
Think about our sport. We have such an amazing deal. But this goes back to what the PGA Tour has done to help all of us players. We have this retirement thing at 50 years old that no other sport has, where you go, hey, if you want to go play, we're going to give you a cart, and if you win, you're going to make $300 to $400 grand this week.
There's no cut.
There's no cut. It's 3 days, couple pro-ams, member tee times, 10 to 12.
Was that Pat Perez or Mike Kinnett? Did y'all hear that?
I love it.
Another friend of the McPherson Financial Group. But we talk about having that sense of purpose in retirement. So when you put these plans together, do you make sure that we have plenty to do once we finally get retired?
Well, the first part of your retirement is about spending. You're out there traveling, you're doing the golf. When you're 85, you might be able to play golf, but your swing's a little different. It's one of those things where those high travel years, and we see it with our clients, it's that 65 through 75 age. That's probably where you're going to spend the majority of your extra dollars, extra money for travel and doing those really cool things with your kids and your grandkids. You want to set up those really great events. You're probably, at 65, you could do a donkey, down the Grand Canyon. But when you're 85, do you want to do that? So it's just the different types of trips you do, the way you spend money goes more to medical expenses, things like that in the back half of your retirement. So it's just making sure retirement is set up to look like you want it to be. Some people, their view of retirement is sitting on the boat. Some people, their view of retirement is doing crazy cool expeditions. We had an 82-year-old sitting on top of an iceberg with some penguins in Antarctica for 5 weeks. So we have some amazing clients that do some amazing things.
Yeah, so going back to the 4% rule, well, the 4% rule may not be enough for you and your financial plan for the first 10, 15 years of retirement. Well, then you say, okay, well, if I withdraw more now from the portfolio, what will I have left on the back end? Well, if you secure the back end with long-term care, right, then you don't have to worry about that anymore. So, we never advise our clients to overspend, but in reality, right, as Art just mentioned, the first 10 to 15 years of retirement are going to be the most fun. So you need to have the ability to spend what you need to spend and do what you want to do, and that's factored into our plans.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Art, 85, 45, I don't want to ride on the back of a donkey down the Grand Canyon.
That's what I figured.
I'll take golf and boat all day.
Golf and boat, yeah.
Thanks for listening. Want more from Art McPherson of McPherson Financial Group? Find us online at artofmoneyradio.com.
We are an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of financial and insurance products to custom suit their needs and objectives. Securities offered through World Equity Group, Inc., member FINRA and SIPC, a registered investment advisor. Investment advisory services offered through ProStatus Group, LLC. McPherson Financial Group and ProStatus Group, LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by World Equity Group, Inc. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Investment financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. Art McPherson is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Arthur McPherson, Florida Insurance License number A174. 725.
Today's show has been a work of art.